If I haven't made it as a successful author within 3 years, I'll call it quits, but I'm going to give it those 3 years, There's value in that, but I don't think I could really honor that 3 years when I got, if that makes sense, because I want it too much and I feel it right in here. I feel it in my teeth. So I just can't let go. Really hard.
Unlost Cause is a community that shares stories of individuals 40 and beyond who found the courage to reclaim their dreams and live without regrets. I'm David New, and I hope these stories help you find joy, purpose, and passion in a life true to you. From a second grade fiction assignment to becoming the author of over 30 books, Aaron Ryan's journey is anything but ordinary. After his voiceover career stalled, he made a triumphant return to storytelling, this time in written form. His Unlost Cause is a tribute to creative resilience, reinvention, and reclaiming purpose. Ryan, welcome to Unlost Cause.
Yeah, thanks for having me. But that sounds like a better bio than the one I have. So I'm gonna get the transcript and then change mine out.
Yeah, happy to share it afterwards. And you have so much richness that I can't wait to dive into. But can you just share for a backdrop for the audience, what was your lost cause that you leaned into and made an unlost cause, and maybe 2 or 3 sentences so that they at least know where we're going?
Yeah, well, it's probably been a dual process, I would say. So I was trapped in the industry of wedding videography. Never again. I was, wanting to do video production, video transfer, videography. But somehow, at some point or another, I sidestepped and, lost focus and dared to venture into the precarious realm of wedding videography. I never came out. So it is an industry that just chews you up and spits you out or just keeps you there forever. Got stuck there. It's not where I wanted to be. And then I just decided when voiceovers came along, I'm going to make a go of it in voiceovers. And voiceovers proved super lucrative for several years. And, you wake up laughing with, I made how much on what kind of job? Lots of fun. But boy, the industry has really stalled. Like you said, AI, huge culprit, underbidding colleagues, lowballing clients, the SAG-AFTRA strike, the economy all have eroded the industry and the pay scale. So I've decided to pivot back to authoring again. I did author several books as a voiceover artist, but my heart truly lies in creating fiction. So I've pivoted again. So there we go.
And so let's talk about Aaron as a child. And as being an author, the stereotype was, they're voracious readers. Was that you growing up?
Well, voracious reader of the same content over and over again, yes. I'm a massive fan of Lord of the Rings, not that you can tell from this around my neck here, but and it's not, I want to clarify it's not the one. So see, I'm still here. But yeah, I love Lord of the Rings. It's the first work where I partook of it, and I couldn't believe the sheer breadth, depth, weight, enormity of what I was reading. And it just propelled me into this fantastical world of imagination. So I returned to that and various iterations of that. Yes, I'd read Madeleine L'Engle and some Dave Barry and some Stephen King, but man, Lord of the Rings, the three books of Lord of the Rings, just they whisked me away to Middle Earth, and I don't think I ever really came back.
Yeah, it's funny is I also remember reading, but the one I read first was The Hobbit. And just being enthralled with it. And then I bought the trilogy in the little box. But then I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so complicated, right? Before the movies and just trying to, and you're right, the weight, the magnitude, but you read it like over 150 times?
Yeah.
And how many times as a child did you read it or reread it?
149? No, I'm kidding. I don't remember. I couldn't, like every Christmas. So, and I'm not that old, but I mean, every Christmas. So there's at least, 45 times or 40 times that I'd read through it. But there was a time in my life where I would finish it and I would go right back to the beginning and start it again. It was just so captivating, the entire process. Let me say this, actually. I did read The Hobbit first as a correction. I did read The Hobbit first. And I was like, hey, this is very cool. How really cool. And I love the characters. But when I stepped into the world of Lord of the Rings, which he spent 16 years writing, The Hobbit didn't come anywhere close to that. There was just something so weighty and grandiose about Lord of the Rings as compared to The Hobbit. So one was a little bit more of an elementary springboard into a greater world for me.
And then when you're reading, were you also reading other types of fiction and nonfiction, or what were you gravitating towards as a child?
Yeah, here and there. My mom turned me on to Dave Barry when she was. Dave Barry is a satirist he's on the Miami Herald in Florida, and it's amazing. He has such a wit. So I would read Dave Barry books. I would read Stephen King, in particular the Bachman books is I think one of the first collections that I'd read from Stephen King. I didn't read Cujo or Christine or Carrie or any of those other C books, but the Bachman books, in particular The Raft and The Long Walk, really captivated me. So they were just, crazy interesting, and I'd never read horror, and here I was a young guy going like, holy cow, you can write this kind of stuff? So it was really captivating, but I would always turn back like for a cleansing, as it were.
And how did all this reading start manifesting it during school for you? Were you, really gifted when it came to the kind of the English classes? And because then I do want to talk about your second grade assignment, the Electric Boy, but I'm just curious, were you always very gifted and leaning into it, or did you think that was too elementary and then you went through escapism through the fiction books, a lot of the fiction books that you were reading?
I think it was probably a little bit more of all of them at once. The funny thing is that when I wrote The Electric Boy, that was a school assignment, but as I'm writing Forecast in 2024, which is a 9/11 historical fiction thriller, that book, I realized I had an epiphany as I was writing it. I was like, holy cow, 45 years later, I'm rewriting The Electric Boy as an adult. So, the past informs the future. And, but I was taking in while I was giving out. Yes. I was, inputting while I was outputting. I did tend to load up on fantastical literature first. Things like Tolkien and Madeleine L'Engle and C.S. Lewis. Content like that was really super inspiring. Anne McCaffrey, not so much, but some of those things. And there was everything always paled in comparison to Lord of the Rings. There was just nothing that could touch it in my mind. And I'm picky that way anyway. So it was like, if I really latch onto something like a dog with a bone, anything that tries to compete, I'm going to go, yeah, I don't think so. This is not Lord of the Rings.
And then for when Electric Boy was submitted, right? Were you pretty excited about what your teacher was going to say? And then what was the reaction to the piece that you submitted?
I think they liked it. The really sad thing is my mom kept all of the certificates and all of the different things that, certificates of achievement, whatever. But I made that book with construction paper and, college rule, 3-hole punch paper. And she gave it to me. She kept it. She gave it to me a few years ago. I lost it. I don't know where it went, but it's the very first thing that I wrote. And that just kills me because like all the usual places where it would be, it's not there. I don't remember what kind of grade I got on it, but I do remember thinking as I'm writing it going, I can do this. It was really eye-opening to see that I could do this. And I do remember actually reading the novelization of E.T. The movie had come out, and so I was reading the novelization of E.T. I forget who, it was probably by Alan Dean Foster.
And when you say novelization, do you mean that someone wrote the novel based on the movie versus the kind of the usual vice versa?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the movie's already out, and so they didn't have a book for it, they just had the screenplay, right? So they then decide to adapt the screenplay to book, whereas usually it's the other way around. And I remember reading the E.T. novelization and just going, God, I love the movie, but I love the book even more. So just this fanning into flame of my love for novels and novelization, it was amazing. It was really amazing.
And then why is it that the written word grabs you more than the kind of the visualization like a movie does, like in this ET example?
Well, I love the movie versions. Of course, the movie versions are sometimes the first thing that you're exposed to, and then that's the one that you come to know. But there's just something about when you read a novel or a screenplay or something that conjures up the visual imagery in your mind so that you're not being spoon-fed it by the visual imagery already having been filmed and produced. It's just amazing. It allows the imagination to reside in the purview of the reader rather than being imposed on you that way. And that was one thing that Tolkien was really pro on. Tolkien detested the idea of having his books converted to a screenplay or being, converted to film because he didn't want Sir Ian McKellen to reside in someone's mind as Gandalf. he wanted them to envision Gandalf as they wanted to. And I love that, but it's like, now that we've seen Ian McKellen, we can't go back because he is Gandalf. Like Christopher Reeve is Superman. So, yeah.
And before we leave Tolkien behind, which one of the three is your favorite and why? Or can you even choose?
Yeah, well, it is a hard choice. I actually, in terms of the literary work, I really do love the Two Towers as my favorite book form of Rings. But the movie form, I really think I prefer The Return of the King just because it is so robust. It is amazingly robust. The Two Towers cinematic adaptation does not stick very close to the book. It deviates in some really crucial ways, and that's detestable to me. I don't like that. It needs to stick close to the book. But Return of the King really did, and it was so epic.
I'm also a big fan, I think, of The Two Towers or Return of the King, at least in the movie adaptation format. And that growing up, was there any other signs that you were going to be drifting towards a life of being a creator?
Well, it's funny because my mom just said this she commented on my profile, I don't know, earlier this morning, and she's like, as long as I've known you, you've always been creating. And I could say that about my son, who is where is my son's picture? Oh, my son's picture has fallen over and is now obscured. Sorry, I need to erase it. Hopefully he doesn't come in here and see that. Where's my picture? He is always crafting something. Our Scotch tape budget is through the roof because he takes paper and he assembles things and it's like overly Scotch taped everywhere. But he is always crafting something. And I think I was that way as a child, but it was more like music at that time or poetry, not so much hands-on stuff, unless you're talking about some writing. But yeah, I've just always loved to create. I have to create. It's an innate drive inside me that is, if you don't scratch that itch, I'll probably go insane.
And then growing up, did you also have creator role models, be it parents and family, friends, loved ones, that you're like, oh, that person's super creative and is getting a lot of energy or is able to make a livelihood out of that you looked up to?
I don't think so. I really don't. I tended to look at the authors who were already established, like Tolkien and Madeleine L'Engle and C.S. Lewis and stuff, Stephen King, Dave Barry. I tended to look at that, and I was much more of a music nut, I think, when I was a kid. So that was also part of the creation process, is just deciding what I wanted to create more. Is it music? Is it poetry? What is it? But I was a massive fan of Lord of the Rings when I was a kid. Sorry, for literary work, but I was a massive fan of musical, for Michael Jackson, for musical. And so I wore the glove, the garden glove. I perfected the moonwalk. I was just like, everything about Michael Jackson I so loved. So I think I was much more drawn musically as a kid. And so that's what I was trying to focus on at the time. But, in that orbit are also creative, pursuits of authoring and poetry and dance and, drama and all that stuff. So I couldn't really decide as a little guy, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So you couldn't decide as a little guy, but now did you go to college? And if so, where and what did you study? Because as little guy becomes big guy.
Yeah, no, I couldn't, I just don't do well in a domain where I have to sit and actually take in the information and assimilate it and study and, I don't know. I need my feet held to the fire so that I actually, I can stay focused. But I did like a quarter at Bellevue Community College, and that's really all I could do. And the subjects that I took there, one of them was jazz, but I was really wanting to go more into like a pop rock career. And so how does jazz help me? I was so naive. Jazz is like the building blocks of music. You need jazz. And then the other one was like Intro to Criminal Law, which has nothing to do with the creative arts. So I think I kind of bottomed out in college, the whole idea of college, and I just didn't stick with it.
Got it. So you went to Bellevue Community College for, you said, about half a year, and then you dropped out?
No, only a quarter. So it was only
a quarter.
Like 3 months. Yeah.
So then afterwards, so what does Aaron find himself doing? And you're like, hey, right now this college thing is not working for me. So then what's the next step?
I think I've always been an entrepreneur mindset. And I think that's really true of a lot of creatives. They don't like working for other people. It's not that they don't play nice in the sandbox, and play nice with the other kids. You want to find something that works. But one of the things that works for me that doesn't work for everyone is me doing my own thing. So as a creative, multimedia engineer, I was producing videos and filming videos and transferring videos. And that was mine. It was my own company and no one could take it away. Same thing with voiceovers, same thing with authoring. The only thing that could really take it away is a lack of electrical power, because then I can't do my voiceovers, then I can't do my authoring. Yeah, I prefer to I'm a self-starter, so I prefer to do my own thing. Working for someone else and their dream has never really appealed to me in the same way as pursuing my own dreams.
Got it. And as an entrepreneur, we talked about role models on the creative side. Did you have role models on the entrepreneurial side growing up?
Yeah, my uncle was a lawyer. He's since passed away, but he was really, determined and very focused and very successful, wildly successful as a prosecuting attorney and a defense attorney. And then my aunt, I don't remember exactly what she did, but she was also a lawyer. I want to say it was like environmental law or something like that. And she's still alive, very generous, very, very giving, towards our kids, and was always giving towards us as kids. So looking at them and going, wow, they're hugely successful as lawyers. That's not what I want to be, but watching their work ethic and seeing what they were able to accrue, in their lives and for their own kids, provide for their own kids was really enviable because we didn't have that kind of money growing up. I enjoyed watching them. Now, I think you become more acutely aware of that the more you mature. So there are people in my life that, came to know in my 20s and 30s and really appreciated them for their work ethic because I was more work ethic driven at that point. And one of those is my stepbrother-in-law, very bizarre family tree, Brent. And Brent runs a chimney company. There's nothing glamorous about it, but he is so focused and diligent about running his company and doing it well. That was really inspiring to me. And it equipped him to be super generous with what he was blessed with. And that translated into my own love language. My love language is giving. And I learned a lot of that from Brent.
And when you say chimney, is he like constructing chimneys or chimney cleaning?
Chimney cleaning, chimney construction, masonry. Yeah, all of the above.
Wow. Well, I don't think AI is going to replace that anytime soon, right?
No, you definitely, when you have the skilled workers that work with their hands, those ones are in no danger, really. It's the other things that are intangibles, and creatives fit in that column, unfortunately. So voiceovers and authoring, they're both under siege by AI, and it's really painful.
Now, this higher education doesn't work out for you, the traditional higher education, and then you decide to be an entrepreneur, and you have voiceover, you have video editing, you have wedding photography. Which one are you doing first? Is there one that leads to the other, or are you much more opportunistic and just taking things as they come?
It's very much a doctor with a pager. Both of my careers are a doctor with a pager. You do what you do, but the minute that pager goes off, you have to answer it. So that strikes in two ways. As a voiceover artist, and there's my studio behind me, an audition comes in and I want it, then I'm hopping back in there. And I may have just sat back down and edited and submitted that audition 2 minutes ago, where another one comes in, and that is a mortgage paying audition. So I'm right back in there and doing that one. The same is true of authoring, though, is I can be sitting here doing marketing or doing whatever. If inspiration strikes for a new book idea or fleshing out a further narrative, I have to start working on that book right away. It's and drop everything else and start voguing on that, because I may lose that creative streak or that idea if I don't document it.
And then when you are struck with an inspiration or idea, are you just on your laptop or with a pen and paper and you're just letting it flow for as long as you can? You're going to try to ride that wave, even if it's like pulling an all-nighter, or are you just kind of just jotting down ideas and then letting it ruminate?
I'm very familiar with the term all-nighter, so I'm going to answer with that. Yeah, you kind of go until you're done, until you feel like I'm done. There are many chapters that I've written, with my laptop, just in the dim light of my son's room, putting him to bed. So put him to bedtime's at 8:00, and story time's over, hug and kiss and snuggle, love you, pray, and then they go to bed. And then I'm sitting there working by the dim light of my laptop in a super comfortable chair that we had in their room. It's really dangerous occupational hazard because it was so comfortable. We fall asleep, and then my wife and I don't have time for each other. But I will write until I feel like I've really locked in the essence of that chapter. And that doesn't happen all the time. I mean, writer's block is real. I don't think I struggle with it too often, but I have to kind of, you have to ride the wave of momentum in creativity, because that wave doesn't strike all the time. And if you're at the crest, you have to keep riding that until you're finally back down again and you can go, okay, I've landed safely. I feel like I got everything out that I needed to, and ride that wave. Super important.
Yeah. Well, I can see that some of the Unlost Cause community, they're probably watching this. They're like, geez, this Aaron guy's got it all figured out. He's an entrepreneur. He's got voiceover. He's got video photography. He's AV editing. And, why does he need to transition to a career of, mainly just writing books? Like, what caused that shift for you to put most of your chips or time on writing novels?
Well, voiceovers is crumbling, and people who say that it isn't, there's two people in the world. People that say that voiceovers are crumbling, and people who are lying. It really is crumbling. I mean, you see it every day in TikTok Reels and Instagram Reels and things like that, and the AI voices behind Bixby and Alexa and Siri and all of those are just getting better and better. AI voices are a huge threat to the voiceover sphere. And I've lost clients that I've had for years and years and years. I've lost projects and ongoing contracts and jobs that I've had for years and years to AI. It's really sad, and it's really despicable that producers or their, the people who are in charge over them say they don't want to use live, human, authentic, real voices anymore. They want to use something synthetic like Respeecher or Speechalo or SpeechOcean or any of those companies. It's just been crumbling, and our income has dropped severely. A typical week a few years ago would be booking between 20 and 30 voiceover jobs a week. What do I have this week? I have 4, and it's already Wednesday. A typical week, I would generate upwards of $5,000 in new business in voiceovers. I have not hit that in several months. It's a fluke, when and if I do. It's just kind of sad. So I had to pivot. I tried to pivot back to music. I thought that's where I wanted to go because I did that as a child as well. But inherent in me is a storyteller. And what I love, the duality of these two careers, is that they are both storyteller based. So in there, behind me, I get to tell the stories of clients who have entrusted me to be their brand voice. But right here, I get to tell my own stories, and I hugely prefer this over that. It's not a long shot to become a successful author where that's actually paying your mortgage and everything else. It will take a while, because the income that you receive from voiceovers, the income that you receive from book sales, it's below the screen here. It's not even on the screen, but it can happen, and it has happened, and I'm determined to make it happen. So there you go.
Got it. And, I've myself, and I'm sure a lot of the audience has no, understanding of like voiceover so I'm curious, you said you used to do 20 to 30 voiceovers per week. Is it going to the booth, they tell you like, someone's going to say this and we want you to read exactly this, and you just read it in like 10 different ways and you submit it and they just pick one? And how long does each thing take? Is it an hour? Or, I'm just curious what that entails.
Yeah, they all vary. So, I mean, this is why I said I would wake up laughing. I would get an explainer video that would take me 1 minute to record, or 2 minutes, whatever, to record 3 or 4 takes, 2 or 3 takes, 1 or 2 takes, whatever, and send it to them and get paid $350, $400, $450, $500. I would do tags, for commercials that you do one tag. It's a 5-word line, and they want it 87 different ways in a directed session. And I'm going like, don't we have this? We have this by now, right? You're kidding. And then there's e-learning, which you're just reading through once. E-learning is a huge industry, huge demand for e-learning. And that just skyrocketed during COVID. I mean, distance learning skyrocketed during COVID. So e-learning is a series of modules that you record. And let's say it's 25 minutes of e-learning, and you get paid a per finished minute rate for that e-learning. But it's a once through. You record it once through, you split all the module slides by slide number or name, and then you come back and edit it and send it. But it all pays really, really well. It did.
Yeah.
Some of it still does, but boy, the union jobs I was the voice of United Healthcare for about 2 years. And
remarkable.
That's union work. So that bought our health insurance as well. We got SAG-AFTRA health insurance through Anthem, and we got that for a really low price per quarter that covered medical, dental, and vision for all 4 of us. And it was amazing. So, but it's really eroding.
And given your voiceover work, I think I read that you're great at impersonations. Is that right?
I can do a few impersonations. I think that you may have read accents.
Oh,
I
okay.
have the ability to do a lot of different accents, which I'm very grateful for. So
Oh,
because I do my own audiobooks as an author, and
I
if
was
there
about
are,
to.
yeah, I can incorporate. I hate doing audiobooks. First of all, I just want to go on record. They pay way too little and they take way too long to record. So, but I was not going to let anyone record my audiobooks because if they did a bad job, I'd feel so bad.
Got it. And then so you saw the writing on the wall with the voiceover decline with the rise of AI. So then you basically are saying like, I'm going to put much more time being an author and trying to craft my own journey and destiny. And I think one of the lines I read was you thought, hey, you were inspired by J.R.R. Tolkien. You said, if he can do it, why not me? Right. But then you also said, like, it was so dense, so thick, and so involved. Like, that feels like there's Everest. Why not me? Like, how do you balance those two?
I stick with Mount Si, which is only about 1,000 feet
Middle
elevation.
Mount Si.
Yeah, yeah, I can say that to you because you're familiar. It's
Yeah.
probably more than 1,000 feet, but whatever it is, yeah, little side Mount Si around here. That's my Everest. I will always pale in comparison to the quintessential master of fantasy fiction, and that is Tolkien. I think in the dystopian realm, that would be Suzanne Collins, with the Hunger Games. I think Alan Dean Foster is one of the he's the premier novelist for screen adaptations, into novels and sci-fi. He's amazing. I'm just a little guy. I just like to write good stories. I'm not an eloquent writer by any stretch. There are segments of eloquence, that dot my novels, but that usually is a tip of the hat, or I drew upon some inspiration from something Tolkien-esque that happened to find its way into my writing, and I just was like, hey, that sounds Tolkien-y. I'll use that. I just pride myself on writing a really good story that is very cinematic in visual imagery. And I think that's why Dissonance Volume 1 Reality was so easy to adapt to the screen. So that's one of the exciting things I get to talk about is one of my books has been adapted for the screen and it's being pitched to streaming networks. And he said it was really easy to do because I wrote it very cinematically.
Wow. Wow. Well, I want to come back to that in a minute. But Aaron, in terms of your writing, did you have like classical training? It's funny because I think the stat was like 85% of Americans think they have a novel in them, but 75%, well, maybe attempt it. And then it usually goes nowhere because it's a ton of work and it's a lot, it's in years usually. So I'm just curious, but some people really invest in training. Others, I guess, can be supernaturally gifted. Where are you on that spectrum?
Supernaturally gifted for sure.
Of course.
No, right in the same column with humble. I will say this is I do feel a little bit like, and I'm going to say this really humbly, I do feel like an anomaly because I've done a lot of different things and pivoted more than a few times in my career and been good or awesome at the things I've done. And for that, I'm really grateful. I didn't make these hands. I didn't make this brain. I didn't make this heart. So I can't take credit for how I've excelled, and there are fields that I haven't excelled in. You kind of find where you do and don't do well. For whatever reason, if it's a creative genre, I gravitate to those and I seem to do really well. I don't have any formal English training other than a good grasp of the English language, a good vocabulary, doing well, decently well in high school, and just understanding. But my education, a lot of it comes just from practical hands-on application. So we talked earlier about me sitting in a college classroom. I feel trapped. Not claustrophobic, but just trapped where I need to be able to have the freedom to move and I need to put my hands on and learn my own way. So I taught myself sign language, for example, and I was very fluent and I became an interpreter with sign language. So a lot of the tech stuff that I know and that I've become acclimated to, it's been self-taught. Videography was self-taught, video transfer, self-taught, voiceovers. Yes, I've gotten coaching, but a lot of it has just been self-taught.
Wow, that's quite a DIY streak that you have going on, which I'm sure comes in handy when you're putting together different storylines in your novels, and because you touch a lot of things, so you have your aperture is just wider than maybe most people.
Yeah, I would say that, but I would say that with humility as well. I know what I want, and when I find something that I want to do, and this is like what I really feel God is calling me to, I just do not let go. I understand there's a huge value in placing like a timeline on you being able to accomplish something or not. So If I haven't made it as a successful author within 3 years, I'll call it quits, but I'm going to give it those 3 years, you know? There's value in that, but I don't think I could really honor that 3 years when I got, if that makes sense, because I want it too much and I feel it right in here. I feel it in my teeth. So I just can't let go. Really hard.
So you've published, I think, over 30 books. Which one was the first child that was born?
So the first child actually was probably my autobiography, and I did that as a test as a young guy for just, like a memoir type of thing. But I quickly pulled it. I didn't have it on there very long. Who am I? It was maybe imposter syndrome. Who am I to write an autobiography at 25?
Yeah.
There's no biography there. You're 25.
Yeah.
But the one that was probably the first that was official was the first in my super voiceover artist series, which is Voiceovers, a Super Business, a Super Life. And in Voiceovers, I was initially going under a stage name, Joshua Alexander or Josh Alexander. And you can find that book on Amazon still. Voiceovers, a Super Business, a Super Life. Josh Alexander is the very first one that I did officially and went through Kindle Direct Publishing and got it all done. And that taught me how to do all the other ones. So, and no one showed me. Again, that was a self-taught thing. So,
and what about the first, now it sounds like your wheelhouse is sci-fi. What about the first sci-fi book that you published?
The first sci-fi book I actually published was that January 1st, 2024. I started writing it in 2023. And it took me about 3 weeks to write. I know that's fast, but part of what I think people may not understand about me being a little bit of an anomaly here is the voiceover industry is crumbling, right? I feel a huge urgency on my shoulders to pivot, to do something new, and to make it successful as quickly as possible. So with that determination, I set out to write not really a 6-book series. It was at most going to be a trilogy, and it ballooned because there was so much of a robust story in the Dissonance saga. It ballooned into 6 books. I worked really hard on getting those books out as quickly as possible. But when you set your teeth into a good story, the story wants to tell itself. So I didn't have to push. It was almost like an alien queen, wanting to burst out of me. I didn't have to push. It just came, and it couldn't be prevented. And here's a great example of that. I kept trying to write my 9/11 historical fiction novel Forecast. Every time I would go back to that, another installment of Dissonance kept calling. So I had 3, went back to write Forecast. Oh, here comes another Dissonance. Now I got 4. Okay, back to Forecast. Oh, one more. Now 5, Forecast, 6, Forecast. I'm done. And then I finally finished Forecast. But the story kept telling itself.
Yeah. And was that Alien being born, was that a shout out to Alien, your favorite movie?
No, not at all. It is my favorite movie by far. Aliens is my favorite movie. Plural, the second one. We were really inspired. We had already seen the movie before, but we watched again the movie I Am Legend. And I remember being inspired by I Am Legend and going, I love the fact that this world is unmaintained. The caretakers and custodians have been taken out of the way. There are weeds growing up through the cracks that are 6 feet tall. You've got lions roaming the street. You've got crickets. It's a ghost town. Humans are living, underground or in isolation, eking out an existence in the shadows. I thought, what if that same scenario were true, but the predication was an alien invasion, not zombies and a vaccine gone wrong, but an alien invasion. And so hence the first few sentences of Dissonance came out after that.
Amazing. And I'm just literally blown away that you birthed it in like 3 weeks. I know that you have this sense of urgency. A lot of writers have a sense of urgency, but I think I was looking at my notes, and a lot of writers are very precious about their work, especially the first one, because it's their baby and they wanted to get it right, and et cetera, et cetera. How did you balance, was it the urgency, or you said that the story wanted to be told and it just came out and you're like, that's it. I don't need anyone's feedback. I don't need too much editor feedback. It's ready to go.
I did want editing feedback. I did have my mom is really astute at English. And when she reads, she's always pointing out errors. So she actually edited the very first one. And I want her to point out those grammatical and typographical and punctuational errors. I need that because I want it to be perfect or as near as possible. And so she edited the first one. She did fine. The second one, I went with a professional editor. I didn't really like her style. What she gave back to me was when I incorporated her edits, it created a lot of headache of cleanup. So, I went, why don't I have my wife do these? My wife is a professional editor. She's edited several people's work over the years. She is a poet and a wordsmith. So I'm not only going to get the typographical, punctuational stuff covered, but I'm also going to get, how can I say this better? Right? My mom was proofing purely for a double comma or a misspelled word or a missing quotation mark. My wife does that, but also finds great ways to say it so much better. And so I did need that editing. But as far as the work, there hasn't been a lot of content editing. I didn't request that. I'm comfortable with my story. And I'm one of those guys where in music, I would write 15 songs for an album, and all 15 needed to go on that album, baby. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, we're not whittling it down to 10. No, I love all these 15 songs. So don't take out my content, So I'd probably be a horrible client for an editor who is not my wife. She's so patient with me.
Wow. So I'm curious about this husband-wife partnership. A lot of people, it can cause undue friction and run amok. But it sounds like you two have a great relationship where 1+1 truly equals 3, because she thinks above and beyond just the editing, but about ways to incorporate it and tell the story better.
Yeah, there is friction. I mean, one of the things I love to do, it's not crazy making, but I come in and go, where you at? Because I find her working on the novel and I want to know where she's at. And we have this running joke where if I know that she's editing, she's sitting over there, in her laptop and she's editing, and I hear her go, as she's editing, I hear her go, and I'm just like, great, thanks, hun. Appreciate that vote of confidence. And she'll tease me that way. Mm-hmm. And if she comes across a narrative in there that is an Aaron and Janineism, where like that's something we say that you draw upon what you know, and I put that in the book, she goes, that's us, and she'll call me on it. But she's really good. She does a great job editing, and I'm really grateful for how she's helped me to just say things so much better. There hasn't been tension yet. Where's some wood? There hasn't been tension yet. She's been really affirming of what I've written and supportive. I could not do it without her. She's wonderful.
That's great to hear. And then in terms of like the support, it sounds like you have a lot of mom, wife support. Do you also find support in other literary groups or author groups and then if so, share with the audience, what is that like?
Yeah, so I have beta readers, I have ARC readers, I've got Audible audiobook reviewers, so they listen for, double takes and throat clearings and things that I missed. They're all super, super helpful. I have a team. My wife is my editor, but I do edit things that are maybe a little bit more rudimentary when I know she's working on, for example, do I have my copy of The End here? So The End, Volume 3, Omega, she's working on that right now. This is Alpha. She edited this. She edited Omicron. She's editing Omega. And she's busy with that. So in the meantime, I've finished writing, and then I went back to writing the slide. And I edited this myself, but I did incorporate feedback from other people as beta readers who reviewed it and found things that I had missed. So that helps me to edit it myself. And then, she'll come back later on and give it a heavier edit if it's needed, but yeah, you definitely need your team for sure.
Got it. And then how much motivation do you also get from fans, right? Like going to a book signing, reading your Amazon reviews, or, people emailing you, like, how does that, or are you super just like self-motivated, like, hey, I put that in the world, I'm at peace regardless of what they say, or do you like that feedback?
No, I love the feedback, and it's an addiction, really. It cannot be cured. Yeah, I think as a creator, it is one of the most fundamental parts of being a creator. When you give someone a gift, you want them to appreciate that gift. You want them to go, I love this, or I value this, or some kind of value. So when you get the feedback, it's super, super important. Reviews are so hard to get. I'm always asking for them. You just find that you're constantly pushing for reviews, and that can become a little bit of a, beating a dead horse, but so be it. I will take the bad reviews, and there's been few. My ratings are really high for my books. I'll take those bad reviews with a grain of salt. Either the person it's not their cup of tea, first of all, or they didn't really understand why this character development was important, thus the slow burn before the aliens invade and attack. They don't understand why this ends on a cliffhanger. Well, it's volume 1. There's volume 2 coming. Okay, so I mean, duh, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so you can't please everybody, but the feedback is super important. And the reviews, every time a new one comes in, it's like, oh, what did they say? I did in my inbox. I promise I'm not reading it while I'm here. I'm keeping it at bay. But Literary Titan is a source that I go to for editorial reviews. And they've just reviewed The End Omega. And it got a 5-star like the other ones did. So I'm great.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really grateful. Thank you. But I want to read that and see what they said, because they do identify things that maybe could have been tightened up more or whatever. But the feedback is so critical. It's really hard to put something out there. There are people who maintain, I just do this for me, right? I don't need the sounding board. I don't know how true that is, because as a creator, you don't just create pottery and go, wow, that's beautiful pottery. It's so fulfilling to have someone else go, wow, that's beautiful pottery. It's like, come on, really? You're not being truthful. You want that feedback.
And what about in-person events right now? How is that similar or different than, bing, you get a review pops up and you're, looking forward to unwrapping, reading it, and then like actually interacting and signing something, and they're asking you, hey, can you personalize it to XYZ? And they really read it and cared about what you wrote.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love doing the in-person events. So I'm not adamantly opposed to book fairs, but I don't do book fairs because at a book fair, we are all authors. We're not unique in any way. We are all authors clamoring for the attention of the reader. There's nothing unique about me, as opposed to this guy on my right or this gal on my left. So what I tend to do instead is I do a lot of craft fairs and vendor markets. And those make me absolutely unique because I'm sitting here, next to me is somebody who does blown glass. This person is a painter. Over there, they do metal works. That guy does, whatever. She's a seamstress or whatever, they create crafts. And people go, oh, an author. It makes you a little bit of a celebrity because you're a local best-selling, award-winning author, what have you, whatever. And they get excited about seeing those book covers. I love, though, getting out there and being able to tell the story of this and why I wrote it, because the cover's beautiful. The cover looks great. And they go, what's the slide about? Let me tell you.
Glad you asked.
I'm so glad they asked. I love telling them what this book is about and why I wrote it. I love it.
And what about awards? Is that also gratifying, like best-selling this or gold medal X? How does that play into your motivation and your reward system?
That's huge because those awards communicate dignity of your work to others. And I think that's really important because everybody can say anybody, if they get their book published and it sells well, can be a best-selling author. That's awesome. I mean, you can do that and that's great. But when you get an award from a reader service like an editorial review or anybody else, like you've done a promotion like Book Raid. I've gotten some awards from Book Raids for the best-selling sci-fi book in that run or best-selling historical fiction book in that run. Those are really great to show off because, yes, they're a little bit like bragging rights, but they are so good for being able to say, someone else gave me this esteem. That's really, really, really important because if you get that esteem, then you can say, here's a professional service, not just any reader, but a professional service that says, this book is awesome and you need to get it. I mean, that's like super, super helpful.
Yeah. And then you mentioned at the beginning that the book is being pitched for a movie on the streaming services. Did they come to you or did you go to them? And how did that feel when that conversation started blossoming?
Yeah, they came to me. Some people are natural blondes. I'm a natural cynic. I was like, okay. I mean, and the authoring industry is rife with scammers, unfortunately. So it really is. There are people who are just going to sell you, oceanfront property in Utah, and you just sign on the dotted line, and you're going to be a bestseller, I promise, and this and that, and it's seriously irritating. The industry is rife with them. So what you do is you just keep your wariness up, but you're going to be approached by marketers ad nauseum who promise you to get you to a bestseller list or create a video trailer for you or whatever it is. Create a, SEO website, whatever. They're just all over the place and it's so annoying. So I was approached by, her name was Sarah, and she was a representative for Alan Roth with Act 2 Media. And I did my due diligence. I had to do my due diligence and vet him because he was legit. but he was on IMDb. What else did I find? I know he's on IMDb, and that's a huge, you can't get on IMDb by fakery. But he was a winner out of 5, I think, who won a screenwriting contest. This is what I get so excited about because it puts me 3 degrees away from James Cameron. I know, who's that? James Cameron used to be married to Gaylan Hurd, a powerful producer in Hollywood. And Gaylan Hurd, I forget what the contest was called, but she did a contest a while back for screenwriters to write the best screenplay. And so he entered that and he won. It was for Hollywood Fellows, whatever that means. Like if you're a Hollywood registered person, you're a fellow. And he was one of 5 winners for that contest. So I saw that, and I saw Gaylan Hurd, and I saw James Cameron, and I was like, favorite movie, Aliens, James Cameron, I'm in. And I checked his rate. I asked, what's your rate to adapt it to screen? And here's the low end, here's the high end. He was right here. But so he wasn't outlandishly on either side. And he also does all the marketing, and he meets with the producers. I don't know who to go to. So he's been pitching, and we've got, can I say this? We have a 4th meeting with Legendary Studios coming up. Legendary did Godzilla and Dune. They're epic. Dissonance needs that same love, and I'm so excited.
I got goosebumps when you said that. Like I could see their logo, right? And at the beginning of movies and so forth. But wait a second, that sounds a little odd. So you have to pay them to do their job, to do the adaptation. Shouldn't it be like, hey, you sign the line and, this is how we're going to split the pie if it happens, but we're going to do all the work and then do the adaptation. It feels a little bit odd that you have to pay them to write that adaptation.
No, it doesn't feel odd to me at all. They're a service. He provides a professional service. Screenwriters are on Fiverr even, some site like Fiverr, and they charge for the adaptation of a book to screen. It's a service. So he's a professional screenwriter, and he's a professional Hollywood fellow, and he's received his own accolades. Yeah, definitely a service that you pay for legitimately.
Got it. And then do you get to review his adaptation, like kind of like your wife's editing you? Like, where are you at? Are you able to say like, I don't know about that adaptation, that doesn't ring true to me? Do you have any type of veto or feedback loop for him?
I do. And it was very collaborative. And that's what I really loved about this whole process was he would write a bit more on the screenplay. We would meet every, week or 2 weeks at that point, and he would share with me what he had developed since the last time we talked. And so he did make 2 really big changes. One of them was age related. So the love interest would, then be like this. And I was like, could you change that back, please? And then the other one was he had one character say some profanity, and that character wouldn't say that. So I was a little bit opposed to that, but he undid both. He Control Z'd both of those. That was really encouraging because it just showed his collaborative nature.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And we're going to think positive. When this gets inked, what's usually the lag time between like when something gets inked and then, we're like seeing it on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Disney or whatever streaming service? Like, is that 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 years?
It could be a while. There's so many steps that need to take place in that process. So obviously you have the initial storyboard for the pilot, and you basically get the pilot done, and then, you develop some community around the pilot. Then they start, producing the subsequent episodes. But you need to we would stipulate that we would be part of that screenwriting team. So we would have some control as far as how the rest of the screenplays go. But then they need to cast. They need to hire a director. They need to, obtain the funding for the production. They need to location scout. They need to audition people. They need to film. They need to, do all the post-production and the marketing. So yeah, on a real low budget film adaptation, it could be, a year or less in some cases. Maybe that's incorrect. A year, maybe a little over a year. And then the other ones can take, a few more years because there's a lot of steps.
Yeah, no, that will definitely be exciting. And when I was prepping for this, you also talked about the role of AI, right? So twofold here, Aaron, is one, I'm curious about, the impact of AI on the kind of the creative class that you've talked about. And then I want to transition because I find that sci-fi authors have this ability to project into the future with some uncanny accuracy about like what is actually going to happen. So I'd love to get your predictions about, society as a whole, if we're going to be around anymore or we're all dead in 2, 3 years. But first on the creative class, and then I'd love your hot take on AI's impact down the road.
Yeah, AI is, I have no love for AI. AI is really upsetting. AI has cost us as a family, as an industry, as a professional, as a creative. It's cost us and it's cost me. And I don't have any love for it. So in every single book that I've written, and you'll see this is true, you can flip to the opening pages, you'll see note on AI. And that is just a reminder to the reader and to fellow authors and an assertion that I have not and will not use AI ever to generate any narrative of my domain. I won't do that. My book is entirely my own creation, and I will never surrender that God-given right and gift of creation to ChatGPT or OpenAI or whatever they are. I won't do that, or Grok or whatever people are using. I do use AI I used it for a new author photo, assimilating a bunch of different pictures of me, because that's me. I mean, I don't care about that. That's a picture of me. But I'm creating my own work that I'm putting my name on. And I'm not going to go out there and purport, yes, I'm an author, when my books have not been written by me one iota. I think that's really deceptive. The environmental impact, the gallons of water used to generate these generative AI models and systems in order to just convert a prompt into something you want to use, it's ecologically dangerous. It's detrimental. But then the audacity that people have to say, I wrote this, and they didn't, and go to Midjourney and have a cover created, slap that on there, throw it up on KDP or Ingram Spark or Draft 2 Digital or wherever. And they're not an author. They're a capitalist. And that's really irritating for me because it dilutes the marketplace. So I don't know where we'll be. I know AI is all the rage and people love it and they like it and they use it, but I really wish they wouldn't.
And then in terms of like in the future, if you had to, just think about sci-fi and down the road, obviously the economic impact and the displacement that we're seeing, especially amongst like, white collar workers nowadays, it used to be like the other way around. So I'm curious, like, do you have a point of view on, because there are people who say, hey, in 5 years, AI is just going to destroy humanity, right? So, or maybe even less than that, but do you have a take on that, or are you thinking down the road?
Well, I wouldn't call it Skynet yet. That's the way it's headed. Of course, you have a sentient electrical system or you have an autonomous electrical system that develops sentience, and we're in trouble, especially depending on what access it has, the things that it can access. So I think it's just really scary. It also, I think for so many people, you go back years to the foundation of voicemail. And nobody likes being trapped in phone jail, especially if you're trying to call a big company and just get to a freaking human. And you get, for Bob, press 1. And if you'd like to, speak to Jen after Bob, press 3. And then to leave a review, tell us, press 6 and do this. And then, are you calling about this? If so, press 7, and that, press 9. Oh my gosh. I just want to press 0 and I want to talk to somebody. It's so irritating. It's the rise of AI has given way to, I think, a huge craving for humanity and human interaction. And you can see that just in watching reels on Facebook, reels on TikTok, reels on Instagram, where the sheer volume of AI reels, like here's a tsunami that's bearing down on a coastal town, and the people on the boardwalk are just walking along shopping with their shopping bags, and they can see that tidal wave coming. They can see that tsunami coming, but they're just doing their shopping, and then it just destroys the town, and those people didn't even know it. It's like, come on, it's clearly this is an AI reel, or a giant shark leaping out of the water to catch an itty bitty helicopter, or a woman petting a shark in the water. It's like, it's so irritating, especially when you see those tsunami reels and they're fake, and yet you see the comments from the naive contingent going, oh, those poor people, and it's just like, oh my gosh, do you really believe that's real? We need humanity. Save the humans.
Well, what's interesting is I believe Mark Cuban said that there's going to be so much AI slop because the marginal cost is so low to produce content nowadays that you won't be able to decipher what is real and what is not because it's getting better. So there's being back to in-person events is going to be in vogue because I actually get to shake your hand at a book signing, right? And versus like, I think I'm talking to him on video or seeing a clip of him on video. So yeah, I can see what you're saying. It's like, hopefully it becomes in vogue to have human to human connection again.
Yeah. I all I can say is, yeah. I mean, wouldn't that just be nice to just have that be in vogue again? It's really sad how much people are enamored by it. But what's even sadder is that the huge cost to creatives is almost incalculable. People are losing jobs to computers. And when you strip down all of the allure and strip all of it away, that's really what it boils down to, is creators are being stripped of their livelihood. And what do? You then embrace AI? You're sleeping with the enemy, in that context. It's just really hard. It's kind of like the guys in Ireland, whatever, they're on strike, and the scabs, they cross the picket lines to go down into the coal mines and stuff. They're called scabs for that. And it's just, so divisive.
And then looking forward, Aaron, what's, are you going to be focusing on? Is it the rewrite of Electric Boy or obviously the movie, but what are some of the major projects that you're excited about?
Yeah, well, The Electric Boy has already really been rewritten, just in adult form in Forecast. That's my 9/11 historical fiction thriller. The Slide was just released, so that's my, hot off the presses disaster fiction book. And I love how it turned out. It's a really cool, a very melancholy book. So that one's done. What I'm working on now is called The Phoenix Experiment, and it's essentially a paranormal thriller. I always loved Stephen King growing up, but in movie form, I loved Steven Spielberg, and I loved Poltergeist. So I wanted to do a tip of the hat to that. So that one's been slow going right now because I'm working on marketing for The Slide. But look out, when I can successfully say I've marketed the snot out of this book, I'm going to just let the waves carry it now and see where it goes. I go nuts in writing, and I can go really fast, 3 weeks fast with Dissonance.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And how much of a book success is based on the marketing versus like people finding about it and going viral?
Yeah, there's no way to tell. The metrics are there for some specific marketing, like Amazon ads or Facebook ads or whatever. But it's really hard to tell that and that's one of the things that I really count on. All you can do is all you can do, right? So I'm putting out all kinds of efforts, and good thoughts into the universe and momentum and all that stuff. I am trying my darndest with every single book to just pay it equal attention, or some more than others, and just get them, promoted. But man, I can spend all this money on the promotion and the advertising, and then I can do something for free over here, and just some book influencer happens to like the premise of the book, and they go, sure, let me do it. And they'll read it, post a review, and then it just goes nuts. And I'm like, hey, all my advertising dollars worked. And no, it was this. So it's really hard to track those things sometimes.
Yeah. So do you also hunt down influencers then in that example where you're like, okay, I know that these, let's make it up, 20 influencers really punch above their weight class, and try to forward them a copy or invite them to the early alpha version of the book to review?
I've done that, and I don't think that it really carried any weight. I'm sure that it will for some people, and you have to research your audience. Like you can't go to a romance influencer with a sci-fi book. They don't play nice together. So I think that's probably where I erred the first time around when I did that with Dissonance, is you have to go to someone who is not just an influencer and not just a book influencer, but your genre of book influencer. They have to really care about it. And so, but again, you have to also research the audience. Is the audience huge? Is it remarkable? Is it an audience that you really feel is going to give you dividends on your investment? So it depends. And I think this is probably where I probably suffer as a multi-genre author, because there's guys that only write sci-fi, there's guys that only write dystopian, there's guys that only write romance, Western, children's books, whatever. And I've written almost all of the above. I will never write a romance book. I'll never write a Western. But yeah, if you are more focused, that's your branding. I like to try different genres, and my kids, I had to write children's books for my kids. So those are anomalies.
Yeah. Well, now that you've written it in all these genres, are you proud of what you're doing?
I'm very proud. I look at every book and I'm very proud, especially not so much for the book, but for the effort that I continue to invest in it out of sheer belief. I'm proud of every book that I've been given, and I'm so grateful for every story that I've gotten to tell. Like the Dissonance Saga, I'm beyond words grateful that saga came to me. Like, what a rich privilege. So, yes, I'm very proud of all of the works and how they've turned out, some more than others. But I think I'm most proud of just the fact that this is what I'm called to. You find what you love to do, and you never work a day in your life. That phrase goes. But I think I'm even more proud of just of me and not giving up. I will not give up. This is my dream and this is my calling. I will not give up.
Fantastic. And then, Aaron, what would you say to the audience who's listening and or watching, and they're sitting on a passion project, but they just don't know if they should take the leap or not? Any advice or words of wisdom that you would share?
Yeah. So ultimately, one of the biggest things as an author, if you are an author, if we're going that route, you need to be unique. Oscar Wilde said, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken." I love that phrase. It's such a good phrase. You can't go out there intending to be Stephen King V2, J.R.R. Tolkien 95 or 98 or Vista or XP. You can't be Suzanne Collins 11, after Windows 10. You just can't. If you want to do a tip of the hat or a nod, fine. I'm inspired by Tolkien, but that doesn't mean I write Tolkien style or Tolkien material. I can write fantasy, because I like his fantasy, but I need to define me as my own brand and be unique that way. The second thing is really come up with a mantra that's going to carry you through, because this is a slog. It's a long, rewarding, awesome slog, but a slog nonetheless. And if you are expecting results, and one of the greatest phrases that was ever communicated to me in this authoring pursuit is my buddy Vance, who has been so supportive. He said, "Here's the thing, you don't have patience." And I was like, ow, here's your knife back. But he was so true. He was so right. I'm very impatient and I want results and I want to see that it is succeeding. That's the creator side of me making a creation that I want you to enjoy. So anyway, you have to have a mantra. And for me, I actually had this put into a stone tablet, and I made this phrase comes from a movie I like to pretend does not exist. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I like to pretend that movie doesn't exist. But this phrase comes from that movie. Your focus determines your reality. My focus is to be a best-selling author whose books got adapted to the screen, and to have that pay our mortgage. That is my focus. And that is all my focus. So if I keep maintaining that focus, that will eventually become my reality.
Definitely, definitely. Especially like I could tell that you have, people talk about having affirmations and visualizations. You're definitely affirming it. And I'm sure you visualize it every day at your house and the work that you and your wife are doing for the kids and paying that mortgage. So that's fantastic. And one of my favorite questions, Aaron, that I have is, what ask or request would you have of the Unlost Cause community as they're watching and listening? Like, what would you have a ask for them?
Buy my books. I would endorse my stuff and say Dissonance is a very robust work that, yes, is about an alien invasion, but it is really a story of heart and family and thematic depth. It's massive. It's an epic story that I've been given, and I'm so grateful for it. So check out Dissonance. I would also say, as far as it depends on you, please stay away from AI. If you want to use it as a tool for creating ideas for your story, great. But one of these days, if you are using AI to write any part of your narrative of any of your stories, you will be found out. And I can't remember the name of the author, but she actually left a prompt. She copied and pasted from whatever she used. I don't know what she used, but she copied and pasted it. And it was like, she left a part in there that said something about let me know if I can help you with any more ideas for your story or something. And everyone was like, what a faux pas. She left that in her book and published it that way. So, man, steer clear of it. You were given a brain and a heart and a creative gift. Test that out. Plumb those depths. See how far you can take it. You might be really amazed. I've written 6 books in the Alien Invasion saga, 3 in the Christian dystopian saga, 3 kids books, 2 independent thrillers, working on the 3rd. And those all came from me and my fingers and my brain and my heart. I did not touch AI to flesh out any part of my story. And I'm so thankful for that, because people love the stories. So steer clear of AI, man.
Got it. And then for the audience that is really resonating and enjoying your message, how can they follow you or, see you at book signings or keep abreast? Like, this is the time to share all the socials or websites, et cetera, so that they can keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can for sure go to cards/author Aaron Ryan. Cards is who I use for my amalgamation of social media sites. So cards/author Aaron Ryan. That's all the socials. You can also find them at the bottom of authoraaronryan.com, which is my main authoring site, or speakeraaronryan.com, which is my speaking pursuits. Those are the two main sites that you can go to. And on those sites, also, there's links for like aliensaga.com for dissonance, or thisisnottheend.com for my The End saga. But strip it all down, authoraaronryan.com is where you want to go. Also, so you can go to Facebook and look up authoraaronryangroup.com, or I think you could even go to authoraaronryangroup.com. I have that domain, and it forwards to a Facebook group that is mine, that's exclusive, where you'll find out where I'm going to be next. You'll receive, there's discounts, there's giveaways, there's contests, there's did you knows. Author Aaron Ryan Group on Facebook is a great place to be.
Amazing. Aaron Ryan reminds us that sometimes our unlost cause is the story we've been writing along the margins all along. His courage to return to the page when life went off script is a masterclass in creative resilience. Thank you, Aaron, for showing us what's possible when we choose to turn a lost cause into an unlost cause.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Before you go, if you're inspired and want to be a part of something bigger, subscribe, like, and share to help more people reclaim their dreams and live true to themselves. Also, let me know if you or someone you know would be an inspiring guest on this show. Together, let's spark courage to live without regrets, the Unlost Cause way, one story and one person at a time.